welcome back to Data Driven Finance, brought to you by InvestNet Yodlee. I'm Mike Stiles, and my guest today is Chris Gifford, Chief Data and Analytics Officer at USAA Bank. Chris has also spent time at JP Morgan Chase, Bank of America, and GE Capital, and we're going to be talking about things like data and analytics ecosystems, how new technologies are affecting, maybe even changing some strategies. Chris, I've been looking forward to talking to you, so thanks a lot for being on the show.
Thanks, Mike. It's nice to meet you and looking forward to the conversation.
Great. Well, I guess first, let's just get a feel for your range of responsibilities at USAA Bank. What are the kinds of things that you oversee? What are some of the bigger goals that you're trying to accomplish?
Sure. If you think about like the highest level of goal of what we're trying to accomplish, it's to continuously evolve the company, the bank, to be a data-driven company. I know that's those words are thrown around a lot. You'll hear a lot of people talk about data is the new oil and those sorts of things, but everyone's in their own path of advancing in that space. And I guess truth is data is the new oil. It's the old oil. It is the foundation needed to deliver on many of the promises of the future and the technologies that are emerging. So more specifically within my role, I deliver a foundation of compliant, available data for use across a number of applications. We're advancing our analytics capabilities, keeping up to speed with emerging tools, techniques, platforms, and really speeding the whole thing up. Speed kills in this space in a competitive nature, in that the first person and the fastest to be able to react or respond to a shifting consumer or member demographic need really wins or has the opportunity to win. So we're also always pushing, and my team leads a lot of next-gen innovation. USAA has always been an extremely innovative company, and we just keep pushing.
Yeah, well, I mean, you're coming up on 10 years at USAA. Is there anything that makes USAA Bank a particularly different animal when it comes to banking? Like, in what ways does it differ from a Chase or a Bank of America?
So I'm going to go straight to we are clearly a mission-driven organization. And this is something that is special about USAA. As I've interviewed folks to come into the bank or into USAA, I will tell them there is something magical about this place. And I really do believe it is this mission-driven organization. It always comes back to the mission. Again, you'll probably hear me say this a couple times through our discussion because it's very true. I remember my first day, even though it was 10 years ago, first day in new employee orientation, which every employee goes through, regardless of position level, years of experience, background. And we were introduced to the mission very clearly. There were retired generals, there are actively serving, there are people who lost their entire house and car and everything, and USAA was there to help them during critical active deployments of spouse and kids and those kinds of things. It's just when you start seeing that kind of stuff face to face and feeling the weight that our membership carries with the jobs that they do, it is very compelling to get on board with the mission and allow that to help you drive. It's on the walls. We have pictures, we have sayings, we have mottos. It's in our meeting decks, right? So even any meeting, there's a page up front dedicated to what we refer to as a mission moment. And we talk about how we saw the mission fulfilled that week or that month, or some new capability that we've delivered, or some particular member that was in really bad shape and we were able to solve big problems for them. And so I was thinking about this in preparation. Like, when's the last time you got choked up or cried at work because of your love for the mission or what you were hearing about a solution that was deployed? I know for me, it was not a regular thing, but it's a pretty regular occurrence at USAA. The place is magical because this focus allows us to persevere through tough times. It allows you to keep going when you have no more wind in the sails, so to speak. You can go back to the mission, think about who we're serving, and it is always enough to get you back in the game. Coupling the idea of data and being data-driven and technology and innovation with the mission is what gets my team in particular excited. I mean, we are a bunch of data scientists, data nerds, BI developers, modelers, and when we're able to take our kind of special trade craft, if you will, against mountains of data and find opportunities to help our members, that's when we get really excited.
Yeah, and I think what you're talking about there comes across to the members as well, because you don't see too many brands or companies that people are actually proud to be members of or customers of. USAA is certainly one of those companies.
Mike, I've never seen anything like it. Our members are committed to love our brand, the USAA brand, as do I. And I tell you, it motivates every employee. When we hear, of survey feedback or best bank in the country or those sorts of articles, and USAA is shown favorably, we love hearing that. But honestly, we feel good about it for about 5 minutes, and then it's back to work because it's never enough. We have to keep going. We have to deliver more and do better. Let me just give you an example here too. Like one of the key things that we do that might be different than the banks and in this space is we firmly believe that advice is one of our most important products. Advice comes in many forms. I'll give you an example. Say a Navy nuclear engineer comes up on their reenlistment period. They typically get a rather large bonus for reenlistment. So, what are they going to do with that? Well, if they put half of it right then at a fairly young age into a retirement plan, instead of into, say, a new Corvette or a Raptor or something like those, imagine how that one single decision can change the outcome of this service member and their entire family towards the end of their life. So using our data and advanced analytics, we can serve up advice at times most impactful to our members.
How does being member focused impact data strategy? Like, are you able to know more about the customer than, say, other companies? Are you able to lead the way in personalization? Do you get deeper insight into, and can you be predictive about what members need at different stages of their lives?
Absolutely. And that's a key part of what we work on is understanding the full 360 of our members. And I know every company out there is trying to do the same things. And so it is a industry standard is to use your data, use all of the experiences that your membership or your customers are going through to build a view and understand and predict their needs. The goal is to remove as much friction as we can so that our members can focus on much more important things like their jobs or their family needs to move while one of the family members is actively deployed. But it really is leaning on data and analytics to help drive those mass customizations, the one-on-one messaging and marketing, preemptively taking care of problems so it can come off our members' to-do list. And within USAA, given the breadth of our business and our service offerings, being in a bank as well as a property and casualty company as well as a life company, we have a significant volume of data that allows us to show our members that we care about them and that we understand what they're going through, and we're working every day to make their lives better. So that does drive the data strategy in terms of harvesting, then applying that data for those improved member experiences. Again, personalization is at the heart of a lot of that, but it really does help drive faster, more accurate decision making in a lot of areas, including lending decisions or improving member experiences by getting inbound call to the right agent without them even talking to anyone, because we have already figured out what it is that they're calling about or what problem they're working to solve. This is all done through being a data-driven company and like you said, a data strategy that encourages personalization.
Well, as I mentioned, you've been there 10 years, which has been a period of dramatic change in FinServ and banking. You've ridden all these waves of change. We'll get to AI in a minute, but how agile has USAA been in adopting and adapting to changes like mobile, like cloud, new computing power, higher volumes of data? What's the key to smartly assessing what to adopt and what to kind of wait and see on?
Right. It is. It's been an exciting 10 years, rapid change. If you kind of zoom out and look at the industry level rather than just USAA, it has been a kind of a crazy decade in evolution in this space. 10 years ago, I would have said Hadoop was going to take over the world, right? And everyone is getting on board building massive Hadoop clusters. And while it still has a solid place in the ecosystem of data and analytics capabilities, new technologies have emerged challenging all prior notions on data platforms, architecture, movement, processing horsepower. So, yeah, any company working to be a data driven company, kind of circling back to what I said, also trying to figure out how can I use my data to be predictive and with speed interact with my members. They are all working through what's the right stack, what's the right technology. And so, yes, USAA has made its decisions and hosted its data on platforms that allow us for rapid expansion of storage space, of compute nodes, of deploying tools natively into the platform so we don't have to move data around. And so it is a constant change. It's hard to write a 5 year data technology strategy anymore when new technologies are just emerging constantly. So back to what's unique about USAA, we don't have very much of a physical presence. A few places close to major military branches, but for the most part, we've been a direct to bank and are migrating ever more to be a digital bank and company everywhere we can. So everything we build, every decision we make in the strategy on data, where do we host, how do we calculate, how do we make data available to consuming engines, whether it be marketing engines or next best or optimization engines, it all is driven by this. We have to be digital. We have to be where the member is. We are a digital and especially cell phone device first company as we deploy. And so when we get to do innovation things like our constant commitment to innovation around like hackathons or innovation sprints within our agile program increments, we are constantly looking at new ways we can deliver capabilities through those channels digitally and take on some of the members' most important things. They again are delivered out through primarily the phone and their interaction. Almost every one of these hackathons generates a number of member benefiting patentable new capabilities. It is one of the most exciting parts at USAA is the constant focus on that. But yeah, the data that we have available, the mission coming together, understanding our channels, and delivering digitally, it just makes it an exciting place to work.
And specifically, we've talked to a lot of people on this show in FinServ and FinTech. Everyone agrees, that AI is likely to be a fundamental game changer, but there are a variety of opinions on exactly how and when. So how is that tech revolution being handled at USAA?
Right. I'll just start out by saying I am a fanboy, right, of Gen AI. I love it. It's going to change the world as we know it. I have no doubt. Call me an early adopter, a nerd. It's already a large part of my personal life. I use it for a lot of things. Anytime I have to start with a blank page, that's where I go first. Professional life, we have to be a little bit cautious, right? And everyone has varying opinions on the headlines of how much we can trust AI, or especially generative AI, when it can hallucinate or provide false answers. So I don't have the answer for when we will overcome that. I'm confident that we will, and that there will be additional guardrails put in, if you will, or rules we can put in place to prohibit that sort of thing. But I think that's why, probably in the short term, AI and especially generative AI, there are plenty of back office things that this can help out with. We're using it in a number of ways. I can't talk specifically about those, but it's pretty known in the industry that some of those opportunities are in writing code, transcribing calls, categorizing unstructured big data. So there are many applications for that in banking, in all sorts of financial services industries, for those to be taking on those back office kinds of roles and accelerating the speed at which we can get insights out of those data sources. In the midterm, as it matures, I think companies will start testing into putting generative AI in between them and their customer or the member, and their systems and data. I think we're still a ways out, and people are going to have to test into this. My guess would be that likely start in industries that aren't as highly regulated, whether it be gaming or entertainment or art, other kinds of companies. I think it will take a little bit before true financial services companies, the regulators, the laws, rules, and regs around generative AI are in place that we can safely deploy as an intermediary between our back end applications and our members.
Well, AI does obviously get a lot of the limelight, a lot of the press, a lot of the talk, but we know it's not the only profound technological change that lies ahead, especially for the banking industry. So, what are some of the future innovations that banks are aspiring towards in the not too distant future that you see?
So I'm going to go super forward looking and thinking about what could the future look like. What I'm describing here, I think, is well within our lifetime. I think it's well within my career lifetime. It might be well within this decade. But imagine, if you will, you're wearing an augmented reality headset and you are walking down the street and a car drives by, and your augmented reality notices you spend a lot of time looking at that car. So it deduces, wow, Chris must be interested in that car. And it pre calculates, one, could I afford it? Two, how much trade in allowance would I get on my current vehicle? Three, how many of those cars are within close proximity to me? And four, asks me, do you want to go trade in your car for a car like that? There's two within 1 mile, and you can afford it. Your payments will only go up by $75 a month. So imagine then the same thing, but you're walking around a neighborhood, you're going to move, and houses line up in green or red if you could afford the house. And it would know, hey, you are already pre qualified. We can close tomorrow because they've already checked my income, cost of the house, how much I can sell my old house for, my credit worthiness, all of those things being available. So I think those kinds of experiences, when you ask what's coming in the future, it's those kinds of experiences is what we're going to, that's what's going to change our life. Just like imagine life before Amazon and life after Amazon. My life changed so well. I couldn't imagine life without Amazon now. But I think that's where we're going to get with this augmented reality opportunities. Now, one of the key things is the algorithms and the processing speed. I believe they're already capable of doing almost everything that I described. With enough time and effort, we could build an experience like that. But what's lacking is a unified data environment that brings together, think about the car. Okay, it can identify what kind of car, how much do those cars cost, what would insurance be, where are they, what's my income, what's my debt to income, what's my credit worthiness. All of that data exists, but it's all very siloed and controlled for good reason. But imagine in the future if that all of that data was made available through a service, and I'm imagining this like a consumer data bureau, where a consumer has access to the rights to their data. So I could log into the Consumer Data Bureau and say, hey, I'd like to enable my income data, my credit data, my spending habits, my whatever else is there. I would enable that, still keep it private, but I want to enable that so I can have that drive by car experience or walk by a house and tell me I can afford it experience. And I think as we go forward, there will be more openness to people sharing data so they can get these kinds of experiences. Certainly, this has a large implication to many industries, financial services, not the least of which will be working to interface with these kinds of capabilities to be part of the group that provides that service or that loan or that information in the background.
Well, you make it sound like Jarvis from the Iron Man movies is not
Exactly.
too far removed from science fiction.
Exactly.
Yeah, well, you mentioned that. I mean, what you're talking about has been brought up before on this show about connected banking. I mean, what do you see the possibilities there? Is that still a pipe dream, or is that something that the stakeholders could come together on?
I really do believe there is opportunity. And I know we talk about connected banking, we talk about open banking. And right now, in a lot of ways, banking is still a batch industry. Batch meaning someone makes a file of all the day's transactions and sends it to another place to process versus real time transaction processing or settlements or those kinds of things. So certainly there is a lot of infrastructure and recoding and reprocessing that would need to be built to be able to go to that connected and real-time banking environment. But I think the industry could come together on a couple of ideas, like one being fraud detection. There already are consortiums that work together to find large fraud rings that transcend across multiple financial services companies. And so working together, there's opportunity. The more data you get, the more you can see the puts and the takes of the dollars across these different networks, the easier it is to find them. So certainly on things like Fraud detection, I could see the industry coming together to be more of a connected environment. I think there's opportunities, again, back into that speed. How do we automatically classify data that's coming at us, whether the member is talking to one of our customer service reps or they're sending an email? How do we more accurately and quickly automate? I think that capability will probably initially be built one-offs, but there would probably be an industry solution at some point that is going to make that capability a reality for anyone willing to sign up for the service. So I think there's a lot of common problems that need to have solutions made, and I think absolutely there is opportunity for the industry to come together around some of those. Certainly we'll always still compete. It's very important that we do compete, and but some of those common problems that affect customers, members, and put a drag on our ability to price or service members effectively, there's opportunity there.
Well, we wouldn't get the full value of having you on here if we didn't go a little deeper into analytics. I mean, you're a pro in applied analytics and building analytics ecosystems for banking. What analytics capabilities does a major bank in 2024 have to have? What actionable information does it need to surface? And where are we with its ability to be predictive?
I would say the kind of key things that you need, table stakes, if you will, to be an innovative, data-driven, moving forward company in this space. I'm going to start with the people. The key thing that I think we've done at USAA, we have hired smart, intellectually curious people able to provide critical thinking towards the problems that we're trying to solve. And they love solving these problems with data. You got to surround yourself with a team that is smarter than you, which fortunately I've been able to find a lot of people smarter than me. And part of the reason for the success is these folks are pushing every day. Hey, we could solve the problem this way. Hey, look, we need this new tool. We need this new data to be integrated in so that we can go faster. We can predict more. The models can be more predictive. We can solve more of our members' needs. So beyond that, I think that what's intriguing to me is starting to see co-location of applications, data, optimization engines, and even interfaces out to customers that are co-located. So this proximity benefit gets you speed. You're not moving data. You're not waiting. There is less latency in the decisions. You can spin up processing horsepower easily. Of course, I'm talking about cloud native. And so as we see more and more of the applications move towards the cloud, it certainly makes sense to start moving the analytical data, your processing nodes, your modeling, your scoring engines towards a place that can co-locate and hang in close proximity, just to enable that the speed that architecture can enable will bring you an advantage. And so I think that's one of the interesting things that's currently evolving. Also intrigued by data aggregators. And I'm not just saying this because we're on an InvestNet sponsored talk here, but it really is these data aggregators. As I talked before about that consumer data bureau, it's probably not going to be a spin up of a couple guys in a garage. It could possibly be some of the big data aggregators that already exist. InvestNet certainly is one of the larger ones. There are several others in the industry, but how would they start bringing all of that data together to enable that futuristic Gen AI driven augmented reality Jarvis experience that we talked about a few minutes ago? And I think as the generations, I don't mean to say that all older people, I consider myself an older person. I don't mean to say all older people are not open to innovation, but it would say that they're a little bit holding on tighter to their data and their privacy and don't give access and never give out your phone number. And I think as we evolve more to the younger generation, the Gen Z, the millennials start coming through who are more interested in that end-to-end experience that we talked about, I think that's going to be one of the drivers of this change and pushing us forward into that new way of using data and these new capabilities in 2024 and beyond.
Well, Chris, thanks again for being our guest today. I'm sure listeners are coming away with a lot to think about, but if they want to find out more about USAA Bank, you, or some of the things we've been talking about, what's the best way for them to do that?
The best way is just reach out to me on LinkedIn. I accept almost every request. I'm happy to engage in conversations, even work through articles or help solve problems the best I can, as long as they're not in the proprietary range. But I love connecting with people, and LinkedIn is a great way to do it.
All right, great. We've got it. And for you listeners, best to subscribe to the show right now so you don't forget and miss any more of these great conversations. And if you want to see how aggregated financial data might be of great use in your business, visit resources.yodlee.com/podcasts. And we'll see you next time on Data Driven Finance.